Parents tend to think that our kids can't remember 0 to 5, so it doesn't really matter what happened in 0 to 5. They're coding experiences from 0 to 5 in what we call an implicit memory. So it's like an unconscious memory, and that will keep it down in body and in behavior if they have, bad implicit memories. They may not have access to them consciously, but they act them out in other ways.
Welcome to Mind and Heart. We're going to talk about balance strategies for ages 0 to 5, and my guest is Dr. Karen Villa, back again by popular demand. And we're going to unpack ages, kind of seems funny to say 0, but ages 0 to 5 years old.
Right. There's a lot of strategies in the 0 to 5-year-old range because that is a really important time for establishing self-control, which is, at the center of balance, that a child has the ability to control their reactions, their impulses, and their emotions. So I really think balance starts right away when a child is born. And there are a lot of strategies here that, a parent would continue to use throughout their child's development, but they're really important in that 0 to 5-year-old range. So we take sleep from the Healthy Mind Platter, and, infants are born on a 25-hour cycle. We adjust to a 24-hour cycle, but when infants are born, they come out of the womb on a 25-hour cycle. So learning to regulate sleep from the very beginning is important, I think. And one way to do that is to say 8 o'clock every night, that's when you go through kind of a bedtime routine. And then that child just comes to know that 24-hour day and that this is sleep time. So, and then that first year is really about soothing. So if an infant is crying or they are upset or they have any kind of need, that a parent is really responsive to that, especially that first year. And then discipline doesn't really start more till the 12 months and beyond.
Okay, yeah.
It becomes a different ball game at that point. So you would see, as a child starts moving and exploring their world, they have a lot more reactions to it. They are so curious and into things, and you need to be able to tell them no, and they need to be able to accept that limitation on them. So one of our interpersonal neurobiologists was a big believer in something that he called floor time. And this is where you take time every day to get on the floor and just play with your child and let them lead it, and you are just kind of following them around. Parents are in charge so much of the day, and children feel helpless to that. So it's nice for them to have a time where they're leading their parents in play. And this floor time is really important to build attachment. So when parents and children have a good connection, that's going to establish a sense of security and help them to feel safe in the world, and they'll be much more balanced. And that's why floor time is so important.
That's really interesting. Getting down on their level, like rolling the ball, just doing all those little things. Yeah.
Or getting a dollhouse and making up a story with characters, or, building Legos and all of those things. It's really important for a child every day that a parent is on the floor engaged with them. And it goes a great distance to balance, I think. And then as they become verbal, and I would say even before they are speaking words, because children understand before they express. So they understand a lot more than we realize before they can use words to express it. But one of the important strategies for balance is called name it to tame it. So when you see a child having a feeling, if you put a label on it, this helps them transition big feelings out of body and into mind, where they can become ideas that they can think about and talk about. So just labeling feelings is very helpful for a child in those early years.
Name it and tame it, okay. Teaching self-control.
Which is really at the center of balance, right? So this is something that parents just want to have as an overarching value system in those early years. So it's not get control of yourself and don't have that feeling, because that would cause a child to repress that affect, and then it comes out in symptoms later.
So when we talk about, when I talk about like the virtue of meekness or something, which is the virtue that helps anger. So let's suppose that they're out of control of it, having it angry about something. When we talk about meekness, we say, okay, let's walk away from the situation. Let's count to 10, do something to kind of diffuse it.
Exactly.
But you're not kind of
distract them.
Not kind of like stuffing it or something.
Right. So it's not just a demand for control.
Right, yeah.
It's helping them to regulate and helping them to learn to regulate. You know, I often find myself talking to parents and kids, you know, your feeling just got bigger than you, and we need to kind of shrink it back down to size. Or your anger is in your hands because you want to hit, or it's in your feet because you want to kick, and we want you to have it in your words. So that kind of spirit, I guess, with strong emotion before the age of 5 is very helpful in achieving this state of balance, which I really think is a developmental achievement, and it's a learned skill. And these are ways that parents can support that.
And just let them, just like you said, like name it, tame it, whatever, just to verbalize it and give expression to whatever
Right,
they're
and tolerate
experiencing.
it, right? Help children to know that it's going to pass. They're not going to be feeling that way forever. In 5 minutes, they'll be feeling differently. So when parents are helping with this balance before 5, when they deliver them to you all at the age of 6, they're much better equipped to take in their learning and participate in it.
And I remember Dr. Dan Siegel even talking about this too, that, you know, that you are going to make all these parenting mistakes, or even with teachers. I mean, you know, even as being a principal, whatever. I mean, sometimes you just kind of reach that point. But this is kind of what we're aiming for.
Yeah,
you know?
we have a way to work with all of these things.
Right.
You know, they call parenting the impossible profession. Psychology is the impossible profession, and I think teaching is the impossible.
That's true.
Because you can't get it perfectly right all the time, and you have to have a way to be kind and gracious with yourself when you make mistakes. And then really, for yourself and for your child, use those mistakes as a teaching opportunity to learn, you know, some of these virtues and mindfully focus on them.
All right, so that was the younger. Is any other strategies in that one, or before we move on?
Accepting negative emotional states. So, you know, sometimes parents can get embarrassed that their kids are crying or they're angry, and you really don't want to communicate that they're doing something wrong just by having their feelings. This really is a recipe for later problems.
Yeah.
And then, you know, you and I sometimes talk about this upstairs, downstairs brain issue. And I think this is a very important concept for parents to know when they're dealing with temper tantrums. So kids will have what Dr. Siegel calls an upstairs temper tantrum or a downstairs temper tantrum. And the downstairs one is they're just overwhelmed and they're beside themselves and they need soothing and comfort. But the upstairs one is they're having a large emotional reaction in order to get their way or to get something they want. And the main principle with that is that you just don't give in to the wanting. You help regulate the emotion, but you don't give in to the wanting. Otherwise, you're reinforcing that excessive emotion as a way to control and manipulate their environment. Storytelling and putting a narrative around things is another way to move those feelings up out of body and into mind. So stories that, you know, talk about a difficult struggle like sharing or jealousy or I'm too angry, and they put it, you know, in the context of children or animals with a narrative around it, are very helpful in mastering these emotional states. Kids who struggle, if they have these books around, they will be seeking them out and they will be asking their parents to read them. And there are so many good ones out there that parents can use. So it's good to have those around because a story helps to put a structure around a difficult state. And then Dr. Siegel talks about a strategy called Enrage, don't Enrage. And because children are having such a hard time getting to this developmental achievement where they're in a balanced and regulated state, we don't want to flood them with our own emotion. We don't want to discipline just out of anger, because that kind of stress, a child can't process their own emotion, let alone the overwhelming emotion of an adult who they're trying to please and that they love. So that's an important one. And then back to the healthy mind platter, the physical piece, that when a child is emotionally or behaviorally dysregulated, it can be very helpful for them to do some physical exercise.
Oh.
So that's a good one too.
So that's when I mentioned this the walking away or go doing something, just to get away from the situation. So this really is, sometimes we forget, but you think, oh, they're young, but all these things that you said are so foundational.
They really
and
are.
As we continue to unpack these in the different age groups, we'll be able to really see. And I think the important thing, too, that we'll remind parents, we'll kind of keep saying this again, that if you missed one, it isn't over. You can, every day is a new day. That's the beauty of conversion, that every day is a new day and we can start afresh the next day.
So I would add a caution to your point about how foundational it is, that parents tend to think that our kids can't remember 0 to 5, so it doesn't really matter what happened in 0 to 5 because they don't have explicit memories about it. Their memories don't explicitly form until 5 or 6. But there is a way that they are coding experiences from 0 to 5 in what we call an implicit memory. So it's like an unconscious memory, and that will keep it down in body and in behavior if they have bad implicit memories. They may not have access to them consciously, but they act them out in other ways. Yeah. So I would caution parents against thinking that children don't remember those experiences from 0 to 5, because they do.
They do. They just can't, they don't verbalize it, but it's going to come out in other patterns.
It's pre-verbal, so they don't have verbal access to it, but it's still there. So that's why you really want to use these strategies intentionally.